So obviously I've got a steering box here, and really what I wanted to do was to get this thing, obviously it's been stripped down. They're ever so easy to get stripped down, these things. The only bit that you might struggle with is getting this top plate off. And all I can suggest when you're doing this, can you even see? Are you looking at what I'm looking at? You are. When you get the top plate off, undo the bolts and then wind the adjuster down. So you need to loosen the adjuster nut and then wind the adjuster down, and it lifts the cover up. There's two big dowel pins on it, there and there. And what you'll find is that it will lift off one but not the other. As is predictable, this thing has seen a hard time. It's actually in very serviceable order. One of the problems I had with it was there was not a drop of oil in there. And because there wasn't a drop of oil in there, things like these, which the bearings run in on the front and the back, you can see that's really in quite poor condition. So I bought a complete rebuild kit. I know it does say country of origin UK. Alright, that's the part number DA1236, and this is a rebuild kit for any Series 3 steering box, blah blah blah. And it comes with gaskets, it comes with a new set of balls. Although I'm probably inclined to reuse the existing balls, I'm just double checking them at the moment. I don't know how tough these are going to be. And new braces, which is the main thing I bought it for. New gaskets. And that's all it really comes with. It's not horrifically expensive. And then the other thing I bought, which I can't find right now, I'll do a video on this because this will be exciting. Now when I watch this, new Britpart steering top mounted, which is the reason I took this whole thing apart in the first place. There is a batch of them going to be made in the UK by Britpart, but not available yet. I want to get on with this. So I'm going to try one of those cheaper bearings. Now, the shaft itself, dead easy. You've got the outer shaft and you've got the box. That goes on there, that goes on there, okay? Goes that way up, so you've got the fill plug on the top. You've got the drop arm comes out of there, and the adjuster goes on the back there. And then down the middle of it all, you've got this whacking great big shaft, yeah, with a worm on the end of it. Onto the worm goes this fella here, okay, with the balls in it, and then you get bearings front and back. It is actually very, very, very straightforward. It's a very simple steering box. No reason why anyone couldn't take one of these apart. Oh, the other thing that comes in the kit, there's an O-ring underneath here. Okay, don't bother trying to take this ring out. You can get to the O-ring without doing that. Okay, I just use a little thin blade. In fact, there's the old one. The old one is quite stiff. Probably snap that. That's the old top mount. Right, now when it comes to bearings, because when you take the cover off this thing and start pulling the shaft out, all of the bearings are going to go everywhere. So use yourself your wife or your mum's best baking tray. Just slip it in the dishwasher afterwards, they won't know. What are your dads? Let's not be sexist here, chaps. Let's not, yeah, chaps cool too. Right, you get two different sizes of bearing. You get these big bastards here, and you get these little ones here. Okay, little ones go on the end caps, either end. Big bastards go around this little selector. On the end of the selector, you get the fork, goes on there like that, and then on the top of the fork goes that big fat washer. Having taken this all apart, what I'm really doing is looking to see how bad the ridging is on here. It's going to have somewhere, but it's not bad. It didn't really have that bad a notchy feel when I took it apart. The other thing I want to look at is to see, because there's no bump stops on the front hubs predictably, is whether there's any excessive wear where this thing's been running right up against the bump stops inside the steering box rather than using the bump stops on the axle, which is not ideal. There's no real damage on this thing. I think that this shaft is more than serviceable, which is why I think the balls are more than serviceable. I might use the new small balls for the end caps, and that's largely because of that damage you can see in there. I've not looked over the small balls yet, but let's do that later on. Noise in the background, heater is on. Freaking cold. So it should be, I believe, a relatively straightforward job. Put the grease in the inside, we'll put the ball into the grease and we'll slip it around. If I lose a ball, I've got new ones. Have I not? I have. Pop that in there, pop that in there. Boom, 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 boom. So these are the original balls, not the new ones. Only because I can't be bothered to work out whether the new ones are hardened or not. I could do it with the tracks, but then I'm kind of stuck on the whole track thing at the moment anyway, because the old ones I think are a little bit past it. Right. Just using up my boxes of lolly sticks off Amazon. Other suppliers are available, and I use them for just about everything, from mixing paint to putting grease into tracks. Right, there's all the balls. I can sit there and wait there for a second. Then let's get the steering box back. Let's get it the right way round so we know that's the top. If that's the top and it's right hand drive, that's in towards the engine. That's the blank, steering shaft's got to go in that end. So balance it on there. And hopefully I'll be able to wind this in without knocking all the balls out. Yeah, there we go. Right, so that's in. Now comes the tricky bit, because basically what I've got to do next is get all of these little balls, which I'm going to clean up in a second, into one of these things. Let's take the new one out. See whether it's hardened. Well, I can't mark it with a Stanley blade, so I'm going to guess it is. I don't know what grade it's hardened to, but I can't mark it. So I'm happy enough with that. And then these balls sit in that runner there. Now, manual says assemble the balls into that and then put it on the shaft. Well, the shaft end is all the way up there. Yeah. I'm kind of thinking by the time I got it down here, the balls will have all fallen out and all dropped on the floor, and they will all have grease all over them, and it's just going to be a world of pain. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to assemble it here and then put it into place like that once it's in. I'm going to need to, what I might do is do this end first, because then it allows me something to push against that end. Let's see. It's going to be a big experiment, folks, I'm afraid. A big experiment. In fact, what I could do here is I could build it over the top of the tray, couldn't I, like that? That way, when I push the end cap in, if anything's going to fall, it's going to fall back into the tray. With me? I think so. Right, where's the other one? I mean, you could buy a refurbed or even a brand new steering box. Whether there's any massive value in that for you or not, I don't know. That just sounds entirely like it's up to you. Oh, you know what I was going to do, don't you? I was going to check these balls out before I put them in. So let me bring it up there. I think the balls are harder than these. Yeah, there's marks all over them. I think I'll use the new ones. I'll use the new ones, and again, because I'm using the new ones, I'm going to use the small ones. I'm literally just going to stick them into the grease. This is just a standard. What am I using here? Castrol multi-purpose grease. I don't know how many balls go in. We're going to find out. And I'll be clear, I did actually check the balls that went round the selector, and they were all in very good order. So I didn't actually have any issue with those, which is why I reused them. These ones I'm using because the old ones are foobar. Right, now that's all on there, can I then slip that into there, and into, very handy, which would probably be easy doing it with a vice, I'm sure. Well, it's in. Right, I think I need to do the other end now. Oh, this is fun. Because there should be a plate, there is going to be a plate that goes over the end there. What I'm going to do is leave this up before it goes on, so that I can ensure that I'm getting grease right way around. There we are. Yes, we'll put this on first of all. And I'm going to fuck around, trying to get it right way over the shaft before I put the bolts in. Let's get big balls out of the way. Big balls. Cretin. I told you, big bollocks. Now, it's actually quite tricky pushing these in. Why is that quite tricky pushing that in? That one should go in, surely. Oh, hang on a second. The shaft narrows down just where it goes in. The shaft is narrower on this point here than it is further back, so I can't get all of the balls in. So I'd never have done it the way the factory was suggesting anyway. I might have to reread the instructions on that, just check I was reading it right. Because that didn't sound right. Right, now, that is it. That wasn't too bad. I expect it'll all fall apart 8 times. Yeah. Okay, now when it comes to the shaft, I've taken the bearing out of the end of this. The only way you can take it out is by kind of putting a drift up inside it, and I found that a steering arm, an old steering arm that I hung on to, is the best thing for that. Okay? You've got, on this one, we've got the power steering, what are you talking about? Steering log is there. So I'll make sure that goes down. So this needs to go over shaft. Bastard. I don't know. Oh, no bearings came out. That's impressive then. Not one bearing came out there. And I dropped it a second time, still no bearings came out. Just want to go back in there though. Now, bearings come out the other end. It's all fucking falling apart. So the whole thing is now falling apart while I pulled the shaft on. Right. Sorry, camera card filled up. Just cleared a load of old footage off. Right, let's try it again. If this flounders, I'll do it off camera and I'll tell you what again, which is no fun at all, is it? Right now, let's come back. So come back into the groove. I'm going to put grease in there. The shaft needs to come. So basically that's the narrow bit on the shaft. That's where you need to be working, unfortunately. 1, 10 on each end, yeah? 2, 3. 4. Think. 5. I tell you. 5, 6. Oh, come on, come. 7. My fingers are getting sticky now. One's come out. You hand-fisted gibbon. Right, putting them in from the top seems to work, and then pushing it up against the face where it needs to roll seems to work. Oh, that might be the way I need to do this. So dropping them from the top, then pushing it up against the bearing face. Right, now, let's push that in, hold it there. Can I get the shaft on it? Or we're just going to end up with balls everywhere again. Right. Balls are all in. And the balls are going to stay there. Balls are all still there. Shaft is coming up. Shaft is in place. Fuck. Guess what I forgot? You guess what I've forgotten? That was successful. So all the balls are still in there. They're going to stay there as long as this shaft doesn't come this way. So I'm going to have to find a way of kind of manoeuvring. The main thing I've forgotten here is the fucking gasket. Right. So, having done that, we'll do it again. Third time lucky, folks. Third time lucky. That was perfect then, apart from the missing gasket. Absolutely fucking perfect it was. Right, and again. Trim the balls. Bastard. There are the balls in there. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One, must be one missing somewhere. You know what's happened? Because I've fucking wound the shaft without the other end in, the balls have come out the other end. Right, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to tell you afterwards how I've done it, because I'm going to start slowly. Right, to save me jinxing it, what I've done is I've moved the selector as far forward on the shaft as I can. I've then pushed the shaft into the box, so the mating face of the bearings now is about that wide. What I'm now going to try and do is pack the bearings into the race from it being mounted in the box and then push the shaft onto it. You got my drift, yeah? I'm not going to video it because I'm just jinxing myself, but that's roughly what I'm going to do. I'm going to come back in a second and I'm going to say, what a great success. Right, well that worked a treat. Let me show you how. Let's swivel the camera around a little bit. Come over to me. Now, did the top end bearings exactly as I said, by pulling the shaft out, feeding the bearings in, pushing the shaft back in again. To get the other bearing in, I held the shaft like this and then just lowered it down on and made sure all the bearings were going in, and they have, Now, next thing I need to do, because I don't know how many shims I'm going to need on this thing, I'm just tucking that thing in as far as it will go, making sure it's not going to disassemble itself. I'm not going to touch anything until I've got this end plate on. I'm not going to worry too much about, in fact I've thread locked it already, so there we are. I'm going to put a couple of bolts on this so it holds it together, and then I'm going to thread lock the top end in. These bolts really could do with it clean. I'm going to take each one out. It's the only thing I didn't bloody clean on this entire setup. So that's the main shaft in and the bearings in. Well, that wasn't actually that bad. Once I thought about it, I failed 3 times. I then failed twice on the bottom bearing for now, this one down here. Then I kind of figured it out really. Now I've not put the top bearing in yet, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put all these bolts in. I'm going to have to clean them all up, but I'm going to go with all the bolts going in, and then I think after that I shall come back to you and let you know where I am. Somewhat unpredictably, because I've reused exactly the same shims on the same shaft, but replaced the ball bearings and the end plate, there's no end flow. Well, not that I can detect. I'm going to put the top bearing on next, and then I can double check the end flow, but at the moment it looks like this thing's going to go straight back into the car. Now, this is the new bearing, that's the old bearing. Observe. Can you see? That is royally fucked. I don't know how much more fucked a bearing needs to be actually. I don't know where all the bits have gone out of it. It does feel like there's quite a lot missing out of it. That one, tight as an ounce chuff. Right, now that needs to go over there. And I have to drift that down very, very carefully and onto the shaft, but without buggering it up. If you get my drift, you'll probably find that the manual will say, yes, install onto shaft and then put on extension. That ain't gonna happen. I'll tell you now, ain't gonna happen. What I should be able to do is find a nice big washer, I think, go over the top here. I'm going to clean some of this corrosion. I think that's actually pretty clean already. Nothing nasty there. Box just moves nicely. Oh yes. Oh yes. Very nice. Right, let's get this on. Right, there is a small burr, I think. Yeah, it's actually almost going on by hand here. It's going to need a drift, I think. So, what we use for that work. Check it's going down straight. It's going down a millimetre at the bloody time here, it really is. Right, I'm going to carry on pushing this on. You don't need to watch. Right, we're all done. So box was assembled. Haven't done the adjustment on the bottom end yet, so that's just for now. Knocked the bush in, really using one of the old bearing cups over the top, just acting as a shield, ready to protect the top edge of the bearing. You do flatten out the top edge of the bearing very, very, very slightly in the last little bit. So I just had to kind of just work this edge just to bring it back up again. I don't know how else you could put it in. I really don't. The only thing I think, because I think however you're going to press that in is going to be difficult. And the reason I've got the steering wheel out is to just check the operation of the steering box is free and fluid throughout, and it is, and no fucking play. Nice, eh? And the only other thing I noticed when I was doing all this is the steering wheel nut, for some reason, is looking quite distressed. It fits in the thread, no problems at all there. But I say it fits in the thread. Anyway, it fits on the thread. But I might get another steering wheel nut. Well, that steering box is ready to go back on. I can fill it with oil. 2 hours.